Hopefully everybody can hear and can see this screen that's on, and we will get started in just a minute. Thanks. We will show the results. I am Kate Menning, Advocacy Organizer for the Safe Routes to School National Partnership and facilitator of the Ohio Safe Routes Network, working to create safer streets, improve communities, and promote physical activity for children and their families. I'd like to thank our sponsors and partners for making this webinar series possible. Our hosts, Safe Routes to School National Partnership, the Ohio Network, the American Heart Association of Ohio, and this webinar series is supported through funding from County Health Rankings and Roadmaps. Hopefully folks have had a chance to take the poll. We can go ahead and close it and then show the results. Oh, there we go. It looks like we have most folks saying that they're not sure whether their school has shared use in their area. So hopefully this webinar will help gauge interest and give you guys resources and understand better how shared use can work in schools. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few housekeeping items on GoToWebinar. Let's get acquainted with what you should see on your screen. To the left is the GoToWebinar viewer through which you can see the presentation. To the right is the GoToWebinar control panel where you can ask questions in the question box and select your audio mode. This GoToWebinar control panel will collapse automatically when not in use. To keep it open, click the View menu and uncheck Auto Hide Control Panel. You have two options in the Audio tab for listening to us today: telephone and mic and speakers. If you choose the telephone option, the telephone number and passcode will appear when you click on the telephone button. If you have sound problems with one method, please try the other option. If you have difficulty with slides advancing in the viewer, please check your internet connection strength and allow buffering to complete. We will do our best to field any of your issues. Use the question box in the control panel to send us a message. Caitlin Harley, Active Places Coordinator with the Ohio Department of Health, is managing the behind-the-scenes assistance for today's webinar. Thank you, Kate. Even though you are muted, we want your input. Use the questions box to ask speakers questions for the Q&A portion of this webinar, which will happen after all the presentations have happened. We will begin answering questions after all the speakers have presented, but please feel free to ask a question at any time. We will try to answer all the questions before the end of the webinar. This webinar is also being recorded, and the recording, presentations, and references will be available on the Ohio Safe Routes Network website. The link is in the chat box. And now for our speakers. We have an excellent group with us today to present about shared use in school settings, why it is important, how it is being implemented in Ohio, and presentations from leaders in 2 Ohio communities implementing shared use to the benefit of their entire community. Our first speaker, Michaela Randolph, serves as the Shared Use Campaign Manager for the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. In this role, she works with states and localities nationally to advance shared use agreements and policy adoption, ensuring that underserved communities have access to physical activity opportunities. In addition to increasing shared use agreements, she works with a task force and working group of organizations and agencies that have made positive strides in this area. Thank you, Michaela, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michaela Randolph, like Kate mentioned. I'm the Shared Use Campaign Manager here with the Safe Routes to School National Partnership. And while I get my screen up here for you, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background as to what the National Partnership is doing to create healthier communities, not only in Ohio, but across the country. So my position is really brought to you through a larger initiative called Voices for Healthy Kids, which there is an Ohio campaign currently working on legislation to address liability for community access to school grounds. So in case you haven't heard about Voices for Healthy Kids, it's a fairly new initiative to reverse childhood obesity. It's a joint initiative between the American Heart Association and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Those are the leaders. There's 6 priority focus areas that the initiative focuses on, and each of those focus areas are led by an organization that has content expertise in the area. So the Safe Routes to School National Partnership is the content expert on the Active Places Hub, and we really focus on shared use strategies and policy, as well as complete streets policies and Safe Routes to School. So, going back to the matter at hand and why we're here, what do we know? We know that our children in America spend a lot of time at school. According to a study in Michigan, coming out of Michigan, they spend about 32.5 hours a week in school and about 4 hours during homework. So for our children, school is really their job. And what we also know is that physical inactivity in our communities is truly a problem. So less than half of American adults are meeting the physical activity guidelines set out by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and fewer than 3 out of 10 high school students get at least 60 minutes of physical activity a day. We also know that health disparities are an issue, and rates of physical activity tend to vary based upon where you live, what state you live, and what type of region you live. Rural versus urban, there can be a lot of barriers. And low-income communities and communities of color suffer more greatly from health-related diseases such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease as a result of a lack of physical activity. And we know that healthier children learn better. So how do we get people more physically active? So shared use is just one strategy that has shown promising success in both rural and urban communities to increase physical activity. And it really is about working together to maximize the use of existing resources for the public good. So this is a good start. We utilize the term shared use as opposed to joint use, but it's also commonly known as joint use for a couple of different reasons. One reason is there is a lot of legislation addressing kind of the use, recreational use or what have you of marijuana, so we don't want any confusion there. And then secondly, the term shared use really gets to what we're trying to do, share spaces for the public good. So on your screen you have a definition that really goes into why we believe what shared use is designed to do. It can also usually involve 2 entities, but it can also be an entity opening up their facilities for the public good without a formal partner. So this can happen in formal ways and in informal ways. And Ohio, you guys are not alone. You're not the only ones working on this issue. This is a national movement from Los Angeles to Mississippi to South Carolina to Ohio and to the rural communities of Kentucky. We are looking at seeing shared use policies and agreements being executed left and right. And so this is just a map to illustrate some of the technical assistance that we've been working on here at the National Partnership that spans across the country. And we're looking forward to increasing that work even more so as people continue to take on this challenge. So when we think about shared use, it really is, especially in the school setting, we know that schools have a lot of land, a lot of opportunity. There's playgrounds, there's fields, there's tracks, there's endless amount of amenities that can be opened up to the community to utilize these spaces. And so sometimes a shared use agreement can come about by just having a simple conversation with your principal, or you could potentially pass policy by working with the school boards at a district within your school. So there's a lot of key decision makers, but there's also a lot of key stakeholders when we're talking about shared use and bringing into the public good. So in addition to kind of the national movement and all of these different communities working on shared use, as Kate mentioned in her introduction of me, I convene a national shared use task force, which is, to our knowledge, the first of its kind. This is just a snapshot of organizations that sit on that task force. We have representation from the Ohio Department of Health in creating healthier communities regarding shared use, and we're all working to elevate this issue, not just recognizing that this is not just something that happens, in a small community or in a state, but there really is a need to coalesce all of these efforts and bring national attention to them. So we are currently finalizing a collective statement as a task force to really elevate this issue. We're working with federal legislators to really put a resolution on the table to recognize that this is a national strategy that really addresses physical activity in communities. And so just briefly, I want to share a few resources that we have. We have a shared use clearinghouse, which is full of information from reports to websites that might be of interest to toolkits from different states. On the front page right now, we're highlighting the Open Doors for Health, which is Ohio's campaign for clarifying liability in schools. So if you have shared use agreements or policies that you have passed in Ohio, we definitely want to accurately reflect what's going on in your state, so please send them my way. In addition, we've created a number of different resources to really help the community and key stakeholders talk to key decision makers of how shared use can make a difference in their community. So we have a Shared Use 101. We also have tips on talking to the role of school principals and superintendents and school board officials around their role in creating healthier communities through shared use practices. So feel free to visit our website and get acquainted with those resources, or you can just contact me directly. So really what we need to be doing is working together to make sure that we're bringing back play, that places are accessible, not only for our children, not just an extension of after-school programming, but for our community as a whole. So whether it's ranging from a senior aerobics class that's taking place in a community multi-purpose room at a high school, or to a walking program for mom and tots at a nearby track at a school, we know that we can all work together and we all have a role to play in bringing back physical activity into our communities. So with that being said, there's my contact information, and feel free to ask me any questions as they arise, and I'm going to put the link to the Shared Use Clearinghouse in the chat box for your convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Our second speaker, Mary Chase, is originally from Minnesota, where she graduated from Gustavus Adolphus College with degrees in health, fitness, and biology. She then served with the Peace Corps in Micronesia, where she implemented health education projects. After getting her MPH at the University of Hawaii, Manoa, she worked for the Hawaii Department of Health and the American Red Cross before completing her PhD in Curriculum and Instruction, Exercise, and Wellness Education at Arizona State University. In Ohio, she's been employed by the American Cancer Society, the Ohio Department of Education, and Ohio Action for Healthy Kids, where she managed school wellness grants and programs. Currently, Mary is Assistant Professor and Program Director of the new undergraduate public health education degree at Wright State University. Thank you, Mary. We look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. You know, in public health, especially those of us that work in, physical activity and the promotion of physical activity, we keep hearing about this evidence-based strategy called shared use. And for the last few years, at all the national conferences, the journals are starting to explode with articles about shared use. And some of us in Ohio, we're starting to get kind of interested about what's happening in Ohio. So it was important to collect some data because there's really nowhere in Ohio to go. There's no state repository that documents shared use. So I did some research last year, and I should acknowledge my partner in crime was Heather Vilvins, who is the executive director of the Buckeye Healthy School Alliance. And so our paper is coming out very soon in the Journal of Physical Activity and Health. So I thought I'm happy to just give some high notes of this recent study. And what we did is we first wanted to investigate what's currently happening with shared use in Ohio. You know, are we sharing school facilities for physical activity? And if so, what facilities and with whom? Which facilities are they not sharing? You know, are we having more of like the formal written agreement, or do we have more informal or like handshake agreements going on? And secondly, we wanted to know, well, what's really happening with school administrators? What do they feel the benefits are? What are the barriers, the challenges they're having? And then what do you need? What is needed in order to make this happen in Ohio? So we met with an organization in Ohio, and this is an organization that has 80% of their of all Ohio superintendents belong to this organization. It's a professional membership group that provides continuing education, training support, and legislative advocacy for schools. So this group was really key. We were very fortunate to get their support. So we met with this organization and we discussed what was happening, and they allowed us to send through their listserv a link to a survey. So the final survey tool was just 13 questions, and we had 3 different categories. We asked for the respondents to give their school district demographics for classification purposes. We asked what the current state of shared facilities was in their district or school, and then their perceptions of advantages and challenges and needs. So we used this definition when we were asking them these questions. And the real big difference was, I'll point out, you know, that the formal shared use agreement was based on a legal document. There was something in writing. And then the informal, I'm sorry, my slide went ahead. The informal shared use agreement was more of a good faith handshake agreement. So we were thrilled to see that we got quite a good response rate. Out of 521 members of this group, we got 95 responses. And actually, during doing survey research, like I do all the time, 18% is fairly good, especially for, you know, we didn't have any huge incentives. It was just a link that was sent to their listserv. 80% of the respondents were identified themselves as superintendents. And, you know, we had a really good mix of rural, small town, suburban, inner city school districts in our sample. So it was also a good mix of large and small student populations. So it's safe to say that our sample was fairly generalizable to all districts in Ohio. So what we found out, here's a visual of how many school administrators indicated having the 2 different types of shared use agreements. A little over 1/3 had said they had at least 1 shared use agreement, and a little over 2/3 said they have at least 1 informal shared use agreement. There were about 3.5% who said they had neither agreement. So you can see that among this sample of school administrators we surveyed, it looks like some facilities are currently being shared, but it's twice as common to see informal agreements rather than formal agreements. Now, among the folks that said they had formal shared use agreements, we asked them what was included in your formal shared use agreement. And we can see liability issues were covered in this written document. And then responsibilities of each were kind of the 2 top issues that were included in a shared use agreement. Other things included were payment process and insurance issues. So those were the most commonly cited things that were in shared use agreements. Then I asked them to indicate the top 2 or 3 factors that they see as benefits And if you look at the top chart with a green bar, you can see these are the benefits that they believe, and almost all of them, 97.5%, said that they believe that it would help improve relationships with the community. Kind of on that same line is the second most common response was improved partnerships with community organizations. So, you know, that these are the two top benefits that our school administrators saw. They did see increased physical activity opportunities was quite high too. But I wanted to point out what wasn't so common was them seeing, well, that maybe we could share costs, which is interesting because down here on the next one, the next chart with the red bars, cost was the top barrier. You know, one of the challenges that they see, although they didn't see that, you know, maybe sharing might also share the cost. They also didn't really see improved academic performance as one of the major benefits. Although we know that in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, there's been so much fabulous research about the fact that kids who are physically active, especially moderate to vigorously physically active, do much better academically and have much lower risks for other high-risk behaviors. So that was kind of interesting to note. Regarding the bottom chart, this is what we really wanted to see is what are the barriers? Liability was high up there along with the costs. Security was at least half felt that. And I should mention that administrators could check all that apply. So that's why these numbers don't total 100. So, and then the fear that facilities will not be left in the same shape. So those were the top 5, clearly the top 5 that they were concerned with. When we asked them about needs, you know, so we asked them, again, they could select all the issues they felt would help their district continuing allowing school facilities to be available during non-school hours. Number 1 was we need clearer shared use liability laws in Ohio. I don't know if any of you are aware, but apparently there was a nationwide study of this done, very well done, and Ohio had the most complex laws on the books for liability in this case. So, you know, that shows up right here that a lot of folks felt, gosh, we need to have that laid out a little bit more clear as to who's liable. So, also funding opportunities was high. 55% felt, well, we need to have, you know, maybe some carrots. Maybe if we could figure out how to make this happen with money, that would help. So some other things that were of note here is our sample shared that they need to learn more about this. They'd like to learn more about other shared use agreements that have been successful, and they'd like to see some samples of effective shared use agreements. So that gives us in public health some really good direction as to what we need to do. One other little piece of data, the last piece of data I'll share with you that I thought was interesting is I partitioned off the sample into you know, the types of districts. And this is by student number. And we used the same classifications of districts that the Department of Education uses in Ohio. And so this is a sample, you know, we had 34% were suburban, 25% were urban or inner city. Not quite as many came from rural districts, and you know, 24% came from small town. So we wanted to see other differences in what's happening between. And interestingly enough, we found that the suburban schools were more likely to have no formal or informal shared use agreement, or to be unsure whether such an agreement even exists. So I think what that means to me, I'd be interested to see what school administrators think. You know, what does that mean? But to me, it means that we can't always assume that certain districts, maybe districts that, you know, we stereotype as having more resources, would have more of this going on. But it's actually the opposite here. So just kind of an interesting side note. So the conclusions we came up with for our study were that, my screen is kind of freezing here, of course. Oh gosh. Okay, I will go ahead. The conclusions we came up with were pretty straightforward. That shared use is happening in Ohio. That the schools are sharing facilities, but we see a lot more informal agreements than the recommended formal agreements. There's something about when you put it in writing, it seems to be more sustainable and less chance of issues happening, is what the research is showing. The second conclusion we came up with is that majority believe, they already know that shared use agreements could help improve relationships with both taxpayers and partners in the community. But the things that they weren't aware of is that shared use agreements might help with sharing of costs and also improve academic performance. So, and the last conclusion, which was really, I think, kind of key for us that work in public health and physical activity promotion, is that we really need to get some clear liability laws, which we're working on. House Bill 290 right now is doing really well. Hopefully will pass in the fall. We also need to learn more about examples of what's happening in Ohio so that we can share and give people ideas. Also, we need to look for some funding opportunities in the future and see some samples of written shared use agreements. This is what the school administrators were asking for. So all in all, I would welcome comments at the end if anybody has any questions, but thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. That is a very interesting study, and I'm excited to hear that it will be published soon. If you can put in chat maybe where we can find that published paper, that would be awesome. Otherwise, if you can send it to me via email later, just the location of where we might be able to find it at some point. I would welcome that information if we can put it on the web page, the website where all this information will be located later. So our next two speakers are leaders in 2 Ohio communities that are implementing shared use to the benefit of the entire community. So our next 2 speakers are going to give you the nuts and bolts of what is happening in their community when it comes to shared use. And I'm very happy to introduce John Schroth, who is the superintendent of Oberlin City Schools. The 2014-15 school year will be John's 29th year in public education. He began his career as an industrial arts technology teacher for Chagrin Falls School District, where he was honored as Teacher of the Year in 1993. In 1996, John moved to the Strongsville City School District, accepting a central office position as the Director of Technology. John held this position until 2007, where he came to Oberlin as the Director of Operations and Assistant Superintendent, and in 2011, Superintendent. Thank you, John. We will be switching the screen over to you, and you can get started on talking about Oberlin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let's see. I hope you can see my screen here. Greetings from Oberlin City Schools. I titled this a shared use community because of all the things that we have going on here in Oberlin City Schools and the Oberlin community surrounding shared use. A little bit about our community itself. Oberlin community is a small college town here in Northeast Ohio. We're in the center of Lorain County. Our population within the city limits is about 8,300 during the school year. 3,000, a little over 3,000 of those though are Oberlin College students. So here during the summertime it's kind of quiet. We only have about 5,000 residents total. The school district actually encompasses 37 square miles, which is the Oberlin Town Center and then our surrounding townships. We have very strong city, college, and school partnerships, and then that's historically because Oberlin was founded, both the city and the college at the same time, so it's a very integral part of the city itself. If you come to Oberlin, you never really know when you're on college campus or when you're within the city. There's no big arc that says, welcome to Oberlin College. It's all integrated within our community. Our schools here, we have about 1,050 students, a very diverse community. We have 20% African American, 20% mixed, 10% other, Asian, Latino, and about 50% Caucasian. And we're somewhere around 50% free and reduced lunch. So we have a very economically diverse and racially diverse profile. So I have 3 different areas that we're going to be explaining here. A little bit about what facilities that our schools use that belong to the college itself, what things the college uses from us, and then looking at the city, both the reciprocal arrangements that are with city facilities and college facilities. And one thing going into this, as a community, we try to look at all of our facilities around Oberlin as a community resource. So not having the college as a standalone, the city as a standalone, and the schools as a standalone, but rather working together as to how we can look at all of our things as part of the community itself. Some of the college facilities that are used by the schools, tennis courts, both the indoor and outdoor tennis courts. We have benefited from a long relationship with Oberlin College to use their courts for practice and for matches. We use their indoor courts early on in the season, and then moving to outdoor courts once the weather warms up. We also use their track, both indoor and outdoor track, for practices. And we've hosted a few meets on the new outdoor track, the Robert Kahn track in Fred Schultz Field, which is in the upper corner. This year, for the first time, Oberlin College and Oberlin City Schools hosted the Lorain County Track Championships, which were held at Oberlin College. Other than interscholastic sports, Oberlin College also provides swimming lessons free of charge during the school day to all of Oberlin City Schools 5th graders. So we use their aquatic facility for those swimming lessons. And that's done free of charge to the district and free of charge to the students. We are currently working with the Oberlin College athletic administrative staff in developing a shared use agreement for the new Oberlin College Savage Stadium. This is a $15 million project that is wrapping up this September, which includes a new turf football field, stands, field house, concessions, and varsity club. The rendering here is on your screen. We're looking this year to play our last 3 home games on this football field and expanding that partnership going into the 15-16 school year. In taking a look at other facilities from a more educational standpoint, Oberlin City Schools elementary students take monthly visits to the Allen Art Museum on art topics through their educational department. So we really look at Allen Art Museum as an extension of our school facilities. For many years, Oberlin City Schools graduation has taken place at Finney Chapel, which is on the Oberlin College campus. Some of the school facilities used by Oberlin College, it's more of an educational facilities and educational program partnership. One of the great examples of this is SITES, which is Spanish in the elementary school, which places Oberlin College students in our classrooms to gain field experience in teaching Spanish. So we have 2 Oberlin College students twice a week in every one of our elementary classrooms teaching immersion Spanish to our elementary students. Besides the SITES program, that's just one example. We have literally hundreds of Oberlin College students that work within our schools as mentors, as tutors, helping at all grade levels in expanding educational opportunities. As far as the city is concerned, we do use some city facilities as a school district. The Hamilton Recreation Complex is used occasionally by Oberlin City Schools baseball, softball, and soccer as a backup practice facility and backup game location. So this is right on the edge of town. It includes the 4 baseball fields and multiple soccer fields, and it has been a great resource for us especially when the weather gets bad later in the season and our fields are sometimes in bad shape, that we're able to have a place to go as a backup for our soccer games and baseball games. The city uses our facilities extensively for a variety of different programs. The high school, middle school, and elementary school gyms are all used by the city for recreational basketball throughout the year. We're fortunate to have full-size gyms in all 3 of those buildings. Prospect Elementary School is used by the city for their summer recreation camp program. That's a program that takes place over the course of 6 weeks and is available to all residents of Oberlin, and they use both the building itself and the outdoor recreation facilities at Prospect for that. Oberlin High School is used year-round by a variety of community organizations. One of those is Mad Factory, that uses the building for a good part of the summer for their summer drama program. Some of the things that I've seen here as keys to successful shared use, I think the most important factor is ongoing dialogue at all levels. That means that not only dialogue has to take place between myself, the city manager, and the college president, but also at the organization level. You know, it's dialogue between coaches. It's forming relationships between the college coaches, our coaches here at the school, and the people involved in community recreation programs with the city. We need to view all of the resources from the community at that community level, having a shared vision for what the recreational and educational opportunities are going to be for our students and how we can best share our resources to make that happen. Taking a look at the football field as an example, it makes absolutely no sense for a community of our size to have 2 turfed football fields within literally 3 blocks of each other. So that's the idea that we went forward in dealing with and working and negotiating with the college in the use of their new football field. We rely heavily on written memorandums of understanding, and this has just been in the last couple of years that we've done this. Many of our relationships have been long-standing and have taken place between college, city, and school officials. You know, we've worked extensively on getting those arrangements down on paper, so the next generation of folks will have something to work with as we move forward. And we can't understate the value of a mutual respect and trust between those parties, knowing that we're going to treat facilities as if they were our own, and that we'll be responsible and proper stewards of both city and college facilities, and having them have the same respect and trust with us. So that concludes our overview. There's many other things that are happening here in Oberlin that I didn't touch upon, and I realize that not everyone has a small college in their community, but the same kinds of relationships can be formed really anywhere in the state. So I welcome any questions. My contact information is available on the screens. You can contact me directly through email or call. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I realized that I did not have John's slide up when I introduced him, so there is a picture of John. And thank you so much. That was it's really interesting to see how you've woven all of these the types of shared use and the variety within your community, and it seems to be very seamless, and it really lifts up the opportunities for your community members to be physically active, and that assisting the schools as well in their educational endeavors too. So thanks, John. We do have a couple questions for you at the end, so we're going to finish up. Our last speaker of the day is Bill Thomas, who is the Director of Mayfield Village Parks and Recreation. Bill was hired as the first Mayfield Village Parks and Recreation Director in March 1st, 1999. Before coming to the village, Bill graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Municipal Parks and Recreation Management in 1974 and a Master's degree in Educational Administration with a concentration in Community School Relations in 1986 and from Kent State University. He was hired as a recreation assistant with Warren Recreation Department in 1974 and the Orange Community Education and Recreation as Associate Director in 1997. He has been the Deputy Director for the City of Shaker Heights Recreation in 1987 and the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation for the City of Cleveland Heights in 1990. So Bill has extensive experience in the Parks and Recreation field, and we're going to let him say a few words about a video that we are going to try to play in just a second on Wildcat Sport and Fitness.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everybody. We thought this short 90-second video would be a good introduction for this presentation. The video was put together completely by a Mayfield High School senior named Michael Galloway, who was part of the high school digital media production class. I hope everyone is able to view it. There you go.
Okay. I hope everyone can see it. I'm going to go ahead and make it large and play it, and hopefully you guys can see and hear.
Hi, welcome to Wildcat Sport and Fitness. How may I help you today?
Wildcat Sport and Fitness, formerly known as the Mayfield High School Pool and Field House, is a school community-based fitness and athletic facility that offers a wide variety of activities and ages ranging from preschoolers through seniors. The facility offers a 6-lane pool equipped with a diving well and a shallow area for learn-to-swim instruction, and also aquatic exercise. There's also a 4-lane indoor track, a cardio area with treadmills, bikes, ellipticals, and free weights and weight machines. This also provides the 3 full-size basketball courts down below. You can't beat our membership prices. For members 6 to 64 years old, it's only $32 a year. For seniors 65 years and older, only $12. And for an entire family, it's one simple payment of $105 for an entire year. No, we're not kidding, folks. This is for real.
Okay, that was, hopefully everyone was able to see it. And that really is the crux of this presentation. Mayfield City Schools District is made up of 4 communities. Those communities are Gates Mills, the village of Gates Mills, Highland Heights, the city of Highland Heights, the city of Mayfield Heights, and Mayfield Village. We have a school population of 30,000. Just for your information, a city is any population over 5,000 and a village is under 5,000. 2 of the communities that I mentioned have full-time recreation department. That's one of mine, and Mayfield Heights. We have 2 recreation directors and 2 full-time staff for each of the departments. The other 2 the city of Highland Heights has a part-time recreation director, and the village of Gates Mills really doesn't have any full-time or part-time staff. The Mayfield City Schools for many, many years was sponsoring a community education and recreation program. And when the director they just had retired, and there was an overall financial burden that the schools were feeling with that department, they approached the 4 communities in August of 2011 to see if they'd be willing to manage the indoor facility, which you just saw. It had, again, the pool and gyms and the track above, and was known as the Field House and Pool. And that was, again, built in 1989. I give total credit to the school administration for the foresight to look at the overall concept with the school community shared use. in this financial climate that we have nowadays, there's no way that a community, at least in our community, is going to spend $15 to $25 million on community centers. And so it really was a wonderful concept to have an existing facility to be used. The schools also realized at that time that their bailiwick is educating students, not recreation, whereas the communities hire full-time recreation staff to run their facilities, and it was a natural to combine our efforts together. From 1989 to 2000, the community had use of the pool and field house, which was about 32 hours a week. This was before and after school and during lunch for the pool only. They did not have any use of it as far as the school gymnasiums. From 2010 to 2012, Mayfield Schools remodeled that field house and pool at $2 million. Then the facility was renamed Wildcat Sport and Fitness. The remodeling took the indoor track that was severely banked for school track team and was totally leveled. The general public, especially the seniors, were finding it difficult to walk or run on the track, and generally anybody, because it got shin splints, their ankles were hurting, and so with that, it was a total facelift of the entire facility, and it was sorely needed. It was really run down. The space where the baseball team had their batting cage became our cardio and exercise area. The entire gym surface was redone and rubberized material was put down, and the entire complex was painted. Previously to 2010, the field house and pool was managed by one adult and high school students. And when we opened up in the fall of 2012, management went to total adult supervision with the exception of our lifeguards that are high school, college, or even adult lifeguards, because we have to have adults that are working during the day when we have that indoor facility open from 5:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon. And that's always a challenge to get adults to work that, but we've been very fortunate to have retired individuals and so on. The hours available for our membership went from 32 hours a week prior to 2010 to close to 90 hours a week now. The expanded hours were made possible by the schools allowing the community to use Wildcat Sport and Fitness during the school day. The central main desk is staffed with generally 2 adults there to help with membership and answer questions. Membership is done all by computerization with current pictures of individuals popping up on the screen to verify members in order to be buzzed into the facility. Adult supervision, membership, and being buzzed in is all critical to the security and safety of our high school students at the high school, especially with the society that we live in today. The purpose of the Wildcat Sport and Fitness, promote a professional recreation environment. Before this transition, it was too loose. Again, with the one adult and high school students dealing with the youth that we're using as well as adults, there were too few policies and procedures established, and they weren't enforced. We have staff shirts now that identify staff, and everyone gets a handbook that spells out our rules and policies. Central indoor recreation programming. The 2 full-time recreation departments, that was Mayfield Heights and Mayfield Village, were all over using school facilities. So we used elementary schools, we used the middle school, and obviously the high school. By now using just the Wildcat Fitness Center, it brought about focus and ease of management for our departments. And it helped the resident of our district to understand where all the facilities were being used. Eliminate facility fees for municipalities. When we were using the elementary and all the other schools, we had to pay a custodial fee charge, rental custodial fee. So if it was on the weekends, that fee would be a little bit higher because you're dealing with overtime and fringe benefits as well. And as well as during the week nights and everything. And those fees would range anywhere from $30 to $60 an hour. And as a result of us moving over to Wildcat, it focused everything over there. And we really don't per se pay for custodial fees. It's really, we pay the schools, but that money goes back to what we call an enterprise system. So if we needed another treadmill, if there was capital improvements that were made on the facility, that would all go back to the Wildcat. So we don't view it as paying for money that's being wasted off of labor cost or whatever. It's going back to our facility. So we really appreciate that, having that concept that was worked out with the schools and the communities. Benefits to the school district. Again, as I mentioned to you, they're focusing on education and we're focusing on recreation program, which is our expertise. Meet unexpected budget constraints. Since opening up in the fall of 2012, membership has grown steadily. In September 2013, we secured cardio and fitness equipment, which you saw on the video. Presently, our membership is over 3,000 members, and that's not bad really for really being open for really 1 year, because we received all the exercise and cardio equipment in the fall of 2013. 2012 was more of just getting to know the facility, and it was really more of a test run to see. But then once we felt we got our feet wet, then the 2013 we were able to secure all that equipment, and it's made a tremendous difference on our membership. Minimize costs of operating multiple buildings beyond normal school hours. We talked about that in regards to the custodial fees, and now we focused strictly on the Wildcat Sport and Fitness. Eliminate staff managing and supervising pool and field house. The schools still pay for our attendants, our front desk staff, and our supervisor for the pool, but the communities help out, whereas myself and my counterpart in Mayfield Heights manage that facility for them, and our full-time staff helps out at the front desk or doing programs at the Wildcat. And that does cut down on expenses overall for the schools. Increased community use and facility access, especially with seniors. This is really, to me, the most exciting part of this whole concept, that the schools and the community are coming together for Wildcat Sport and Fitness and being used by the residents, all our school district residents. But we have seen a tremendous amount of seniors that are coming up during the day. Obviously, a lot of seniors don't want to get out at night, but they're coming up from the 5:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon time slot to use both the pool, the track that now has been leveled, where we see a lot of seniors. We have probably over 200 seniors that are coming in to use the facility during the day and taking advantage of that. They're walking, seniors are walking, they're swimming, playing pickleball. We just started a pickleball program. It's very popular in Florida, but we have 30 or 40 pickleball players that are seniors that are using one of the courts. There are 3 courts that are in the field house, or in Wildcat Sport and Fitness, I should call it. And so while the seniors, or while we have exercise classes going on court 1, court 2 and 3 have PE classes. And I really think that is unique situation that the schools are opening their doors, especially, as I said, with the climate that we have with our society. But it has worked out so well, and I'm very excited about that whole concept. Additional support of taxpayers when levies are trying to be passed. And the bottom line is that there's a lot of residents in the school district that don't have kids or children or teens that are in the schools. And as a result, we're offering something to those individuals that may not have had in previous years. And so I think people will view, hopefully, tax passage a little bit different than they had when they would not be normally using the schools. Benefits to the municipalities. and recreation departments, eliminate rental costs. As I mentioned to you, we haven't eliminated the cost of what we've paid, like between $30 and $60. But again, the positive is that money is going into our enterprise and is being able to be used for capital improvements or program facilities that we have. Avoid competition between recreation departments for limited school facilities. As I mentioned, the 2 full-time departments were being for same facilities and possibly conflicting with programs. Now we work hand in hand together to make sure that we're not overscheduling ourselves with programs that we have at Wildcat. And we also, as well, supervise the programs together, or we will offer programs, youth programs or whatever, and our full-time staff will work together to run those programs. That's very unique. And so I love the collaboration that we have with Mayfield Heights. Creates opportunities for additional programs with Wildcat Sport and Fitness. Hopefully you will be able to view a recreation guide that we put out to the entire school district. And it's interesting because this publication comes out in the fall and winter. It just went out. It's actually being mailed as I speak. And as a result of that and our relationship with the schools, they are able to give us their permit, their mailing permit. And so our mailing permit for a municipality compared to a school mailing permit, probably we're saving half the money that we would normally spend to mail out for 30,000 residents in the school district. And there's a collaboration that's worked out well. Let's see. So anyway, I wanted to mention that we've offered now, because of this Wildcat Sport and Fitness, over 40 new programs. And the Wildcat and Sport and Fitness is really based, from September until sometime in early May, because of the Cleveland weathers that we have, or Northeast Ohio weather. A lot of people come in during that time, but once the weather breaks in May and June, we have noticed, at least for the last 2 years, our attendance is dropping because people want to be outside after 30 below weather. Work closely with school administration and are considered part of their team and not looked at as an outside entity. This is a plus for us. We had a relationship with the schools and we worked very closely, but even now with more of the Wildcat Sport and Fitness relationship, I really feel like we're an administrator for the schools. And so we have that very close relationship with school administration, high school administration, the teachers, the coaches, and the building staff, the maintenance staff, and are viewed as part of their staff. There is a tremendous amount of collaboration that must occur in order for the Wildcat to run smoothly. Benefits to our communities: provides a recognized and organized recreation-centered identity. Again, the Wildcat Sport and Fitness has certainly increased that center feel, but the beauty of this all is that our own communities continue to keep their identity. And the bottom line is we have our own special events, each of our communities, whether it be a community day or a Halloween party or a Christmas party for the youth. We have our outdoor pools and our outdoor sports and our sports complexes. And so, the one thing that we stress to my boss and the mayors of the communities was that the bottom line is we're not going to lose our identity because we're doing this project. And I think that eased a lot of our mayors' minds in regards to how this was all going to work. And the bottom line is the schools, with their foresight, didn't want to come back to the councils and say, okay, we need $100,000 or whatever amount of money it might be. The bottom line is the schools, it's their facility. When we do upgrades, we work with them and say, listen, these are the capital improvements that we need to make. And they have been so supportive of that. And again, where we do help out is where our staff does work over there, and it cuts down on labor costs. Okay.
Hey, Bill?
Yeah, am I running too long? We got to end. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay, but we have one question that's specifically for you that I'd like you to address before we can get off. Have you had issues with private gyms and sports clubs? Have they complained because of the perceived unfair competition?
Very good question. No, we have not had anyone, formally complain to us. But you have to understand, you're dealing with a school district, and they are already collecting taxes through their district residents. And so when you think that a senior is paying $12 a year for that facility, that averages $1 a month. And if a senior went to the YMCA, a local YMCA, they're going to be paying $38 a month. And so, obviously, our membership is only going to go up with those costs. But the bottom line is that this is an enterprise system. The school district taxes really aren't going toward Wildcat Sport and Fitness. It's going toward their teachers and their buses and their books and the facilities that are in there. And so we really need to, collect that money. So to answer your question, we have not. We do have 2 or 3 facilities in the school district. As far as I know, they're still doing okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Bill. I hope I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up since we are a couple minutes behind schedule, which is just fine. I'm going to go ahead, though, and show you guys a slide of what you can do if you are still interested in shared use, if you're interested in implementing it in your community, or if you would like more information from any of our speakers. You can email me. You can visit the Open the Doors to Health website, which will have videos and research going on in Ohio about shared use. If you would like to visit the Mayfield Village video and see more about their facility, you can go there. And also, if you're interested in collaboration, if you have a local Creating Healthy Communities coordinator in your community, please reach out to them. They are working towards implementing shared use in communities and would be happy to assist you. I want to thank everyone for attending, and in 24 hours you will receive a follow-up email on this webinar with a survey. If you would please complete it, that will help us improve these webinars and be able to get you information that you need. Our next webinar in this series is on September 18th. It is advocating for shared use and will be led by the American Heart Association and Voices for Healthy Kids. To register, please go to this link, which will also be in that email that will be sent out in 24 hours. We would like you to mark your calendars and let you know that October 8th is a shared use in hospital settings webinar, which is very specific to hospitals but could be very interesting for people who want to collaborate with them. So I want to thank you all for coming, and if you would like to listen to this webinar again, please feel free to visit the Ohio Safe Routes Network website, and thank you for attending.
I was going to talk about that.